Hey, good morning. It's Pastor Jeff with your Sunday morning message. Thank you so much for tuning in with us here at Freedom Church. There's a video going around of Steph Curry, one of the best basketball players possibly we've ever seen, one of the best three-point shooters we've ever seen in the NBA. He just recently dominated at the Olympics for Team USA. But there's a video, and it showed what he does before every game, because you find he has a lot of confidence in his shot and a lot of confidence in his ball handling. Confidence comes from preparation. So they showed before every game, he dribbles across the court with his right hand, and then he dribbles back across the court. Then he does the same thing with his left hand, and then he does it going between his legs, back and forth, and then he does it behind his back, back and forth. And so he continues to go from side to side with it. And so as he's going side to side, back and forth, he dribbles behind his back to close it out. And as he's dribbling the ball, he dribbles and he misses the ball with his other hand. And he stops. And he goes and picks up the basketball, and he continues to dribble the ball around that area until he finds that there was a dead spot in the wood. Now, I played basketball when I was younger. What I loved about basketball is it was something I could practice by myself. I could work on my ball handling and my shooting all by myself. And so that was the cool thing about that sport, man. If you want to be great at basketball and you are gifted athletically and maybe with some height, hand-eye coordination, and some touch, then you can perfect it. And Steph Curry's definitely perfected it. But if I was dribbling across a court and I dribbled behind my back and I missed the ball, I would 100% assume that it was me, that I was the problem. I'm the reason that the ball got missed. It has nothing to do with, has nothing to do with the court or the ball or anything like that. But he was so confident in his abilities that he realized there was something wrong, and they did. They went and found that there was a dead spot. There was a board that was not laying flat on the ground, so it created a dead spot. You and I will never be at a place where our spirit and our hearts are so in tune with God that when something's a little off, it's not us. That when we come to a place where things do not go as smoothly as they ought to, the problem is someone other than ourselves. The Beatitudes teach us that we already have, or what we already have, but they also remind us that we cannot develop any of it outside of God. We did an overview of the Beatitudes last week and kind of broke it down slowly, and we talked about how we're going to dig deeper into this chapter 5 of Matthew over the next few weeks. And today we're going to talk about blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The disciples listened to all the Beatitudes, and then they asked Jesus how to pray. Now, they'd been with Jesus. They'd seen Jesus accomplish amazing things. Most human beings would be asking, how do we learn how to turn water into wine? How do we heal the blind? How do we feed 5,000 with a few loaves of bread and a couple fish? How can we do these things? No, the disciples heard the Beatitudes. They heard these things, and they realized they contain all the things they need to live the good life. Because we said blessed means the good life. They knew what it meant to live the good life. They knew it came from within, and they knew it was going to be dependent on a good prayer life. So they didn't ask the questions we would have asked. They asked the real questions. And I've heard non-believers and atheists and agnostics say time and time again that Christianity is just a crutch for the weak. I can tell you, if you're offended by that, you're wrong. If you're overly offended by that, you're definitely wrong. But the first time you hear it, it offends you. I'm not weak because I have a personal relationship with Jesus. But then I get to thinking, no, actually, I have a personal relationship with Jesus because I am weak. And so why not call it a crutch? Why not embrace it as a crutch? Why do we as Christians not just say, you know what? It's a crutch. Christianity, my faith, my belief in God is a crutch, and it is something that contains me and helps me and carries me. Have you ever seen someone with a broken leg, a broken foot, or a broken ankle think that a crutch is a bad thing? No. They want that crutch. They lean on it and they use it because it takes some of the pain away and they makes mobility possible. Jesus addresses this in Mark 2:17. He says, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick, I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. In other words, the only people who will ever come to get what Jesus is offering us are sick, are weak, are broken. They are people who know that they are spiritually and morally in need of a crutch. All people believe in something, and they shape their lives around it. Everyone believes in something, and everything's shaped around it. Even agnostics believe very strongly that you ought not to believe in anything that strongly, which makes it impossible for them to be consistent. We all have a deep-seated belief, whether we can articulate it or not. The belief behind the criticism of Christianity is the confidence that we are not cripples, and that real joy and real fulfillment in life are to be found in the pursuit of self-reliance, self-confidence, self-determination, and self-esteem. You see, Jesus came and proposed to make replacements. He replaced self-reliance with a childlike God reliance. That baby, I think about my grandson, he makes noise. He's dependent on us to change him, to carry him, to feed him. He's dependent on those things. He's reliant on us. We as Christians should be that reliant on God. Jesus replaced self-confidence with submissive God confidence. I'm not confident in me. I'm confident in the God who created me. Self-determination is replaced with sovereign grace. And self-esteem is replaced with mercy, because we realize we don't deserve anything in this world. In all of this, Jesus was actually a threat to the religion of self-admiration. That religion has dominated the world ever since Adam and Eve fell in love with the image of their own independent potential. Ralph Waldo Emerson, an American poet and philosopher who passed away over 100 years ago, wrote a famous essay called Self-Reliance, and it captured the spirit of the age, the spirit of our age 100 years ago. Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Discontent is the want of self-reliance. It is infirmity of will. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? What does it mean to be poor in spirit? To find out, let's look at some great men of God in Scripture. Let's look at Abraham. In dealing with God about Sodom and Gomorrah, he said this, "Behold, I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes." Abraham says, I'm leading, but I'm nothing. I need God. Jacob. When Jacob returned to the promised land after spending 20 years in exile, he wrestled with God in prayer and said, "I am not worthy of the least of all steadfast love and all the faithfulness which thou hast shown to thy servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two companies." Moses, when God came to him with a mission to lead his people out of Israel, what did he say? "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the sons of Israel out of Egypt? O my Lord, I am not eloquent, either heretofore or since thou hast spoken to thy servant, but I am slow of speech and tongue." Moses said, "God, I'm not your guy. I am not a public speaker. I am not the guy that's going to articulate what needs to be done. I am weak, and I'm not your guy." And God got angry. And the reason he got angry was not because he humbly assessed himself. God is not mad when we humbly assess ourselves and go, "You know what? I'm not your guy. I am not that good. I am not that great." When we don't have confidence in ourselves, God's not mad at you for that. But with all my heart, the solution was not going to be self-esteem. I believe God did not say to Moses, "Stop putting yourself down. You are somebody. You are eloquent." It's not God's way. That's not the biblical way. What God said was this: stop looking at your own unworthiness and your own weaknesses and go live. God said, "I made you. I know your weaknesses, and I know my strength. And my strength will overcome all of your weaknesses." The biblical answer to the paralysis of low self-esteem is not high self-esteem. It's God's grace. Let's look at David, King David. "The sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise." Everyone agrees that this is the spirit that pleases God after you are taken in adultery, or after you commit a major sin or murder or steal or anything like that. But what about when things are going good? Do you still have a spirit that pleases God? When the collection for the temple was being taken, David prayed, "Who am I and what is my people, that we should be able thus to offer willingly, for all things come from thee, and of thy own have we given thee." In other words, even when David and his people were performing an act of virtue, David did not yield to the impulses of self-esteem. Instead, he was carried away by the impulses of God's grace. A few more from the Old Testament. Solomon in 1 Kings 3:7 says, "O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or come in." And then Isaiah in chapter 6, he says, "Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." And into the New Testament, John the Baptist. "I baptize with water," he says in John 1:27, and then chapter 3, verse 30. "I baptize with water, but among you stands one whom you do not know, even he who comes after me, the thong of whose sandal I am not worthy to untie. He must increase, I must decrease." I told you a few weeks ago, one of our biggest mistakes in reading our Bibles is plugging ourselves into the story and thinking, "Oh, I fit there, I am this character." No, just read and listen and learn. The Canaanite woman. When Jesus at first refused her request for help, since she was not a Jew, she said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." To which Jesus responded, "O woman, great is your faith." So we learn from her that poverty of spirit is right at the very heart of what true faith is. Peter, when he saw the power of Jesus on the lake, Simon Peter fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." Paul, in Romans 7:18, "I know that nothing good dwells within me, that is, in my flesh." And then in 1 Corinthians 3:6-7, he says, "I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but God who gives the growth." What does it really mean to be poor in spirit? It is a sense of powerlessness in ourselves. It's those moments of realizing, I, Jeff Gallen, am inadequate. I am not strong enough, eloquent enough, wise enough, smart enough, smooth enough, whatever it is. I need God. It is a sense of spiritual bankruptcy and helplessness before God, is saying, "God, I've done nothing to deserve your son dying on a cross for my sins." It's a sense of moral uncleanness before God. It's realizing on your best day, your absolute best day, the day that you would say, "Hey, follow me with the cameras," this day, because I only messed up 2 or 3 times, you still messed up 2 or 3 times. It's a sense of personal unworthiness before God. It's a sense that if there is to be any life or joy or usefulness, it will have to be all of God and all of grace. And the reason I say it's a sense of these things, I said it's a sense of powerlessness, a sense of spiritual bankruptcy, a sense of moral uncleanness, and a sense of personal unworthiness, because all of us are poor in spirit. It's those who have a strong sense of it that actually find out what living the good life is. It's a sense that without God, we're nothing. Without God's Spirit dwelling inside of us, living inside of us, breathing inside of us, and carrying us, we can do nothing. As you all know, I just completed another trip around the sun this past Thursday. But this past Tuesday, I had cataract surgery. I went from not being able to see brake lights on the car in front of me in daylight to being able to see perfectly clear with my right eye. I honestly thought, I even told Dr. Miles, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get my right eye fixed and not need to fix the left eye because it's that good. And then I had surgery. And now that I realize what I thought was my good eye isn't so great. I can't read the words on this page right now with my left eye. With my right eye, I could read them from across the room. I went from one bad eye and one really bad eye to one bad eye and one really great eye. And now I can see just how bad my eyesight really was. At some point, we have all gone through something that we thought we just couldn't make it through. It was just too much, too tough. And then once we got through it, we realized we would have never made it out without our faith in God. Blessed are the poor in spirit is about awareness that we are sinners and that our spirit is not at any point in our lives strong enough to make it without God. It's indeed poor without God being poured into it, without God's grace and his mercy being poured out on us. Blessed are the poor in spirit. It's an awareness and it's a sense that we are nothing without God. You want to live the good life? You need to realize where all good things come from. Have a great day and God bless.